I was packing a bag when he laughed. "You'll be back," he said. Something felt off. I smiled and said nothing, because he didn't know I was. The first time Grant said I'd never leave him, it wasn't loud. It wasn't a fight. It was quiet. Casual. Like he was stating something obvious. We were in the kitchen in Cedar Hollow, past midnight. He had just walked in, hours late, no message, no explanation. Just the sound of his keys hitting the bowl and the fridge opening like nothing was wrong. "You could have texted me," I said. He didn't look at me. "You're acting like I need permission." I asked for a text. "I'm not doing this tonight, Mara." That was it. Conversation over. Not because we resolved anything. Because he decided it was over. That became a pattern. Not overnight. Slowly. Quietly. Decisions stopped being ours. They became his. Money, plans, even small things like where we spent weekends. If I pushed back, he'd say like I was making things harder than they needed to be. "Relax," he'd say. "You're not going anywhere." At first, I laughed it off. Mostly because other people were around when he said it. His friends, his coworkers. I didn't want to be the wife who made things awkward over a joke. But he kept saying it. At home. In private. When it wasn't funny. "You wouldn't last a week on your own. You need me more than you think." And every time, he said it the same way. Calm. Certain. Like he believed it. And the worst part was, I started to believe it too. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic moment. Just in small ways. I had stepped back from my job after we got married. It made sense at the time. He was earning more and I handled everything else. The house, the bills, the schedule. It felt like teamwork. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being balanced. He had his world. Work, clients, dinners, trips. I had everything else. So when things started feeling off, I noticed. I just didn't react. It was small at first. His phone always face down. New passwords. Taking calls in the other room. Staying out later, saying it was work. None of it was enough to prove anything. But it was enough to feel wrong. One night, we were sitting on the couch. He was scrolling through his phone, barely paying attention to anything else. I leaned over to grab the remote, and a notification popped up. A name I didn't recognize. Lindsay. There was a heart next to it. He moved fast. Too fast. Locked the screen, shifted away from me like it was nothing. I didn't say anything. I just leaned back and stared at the TV like I hadn't seen it. That became another pattern. I noticed everything. I said nothing. The late nights got more frequent. The excuses got shorter. Sometimes there weren't excuses at all. "I've got a dinner," he'd say. "With who?" "Clients." "What clients?" He'd look at me like I was asking too much. "Work, Mara." "It's work." And that was supposed to be enough. The first time I actually asked him directly, it didn't turn into a fight. It turned into something worse. It turned into nothing. "You've been different," I said one night. "Are you seeing someone?" He didn't even look surprised. "Just tired." "You're overthinking." "That's not an answer." He shrugged. "And if I was, what are you gonna do about it?" That was the moment everything shifted. Not because of what he said. Because of how he said it. There was no fear in it. No hesitation. No concern that I might leave. Just certainty. Like the outcome was already decided. Like I wasn't a variable in his life. I was a constant. Something that would always be there no matter what he did. I didn't argue after that. I didn't cry. Didn't yell. Didn't push. I just nodded. "Okay," I said. And that was the last time I tried to get the truth out of him. Not because I didn't care. Because I understood something I hadn't before. He wasn't hiding things carefully. He was hiding them just enough. Because he didn't think I'd do anything even if I knew. And for a while, he was right. I stayed. I stayed when he came home smelling like something unfamiliar. Not strong enough to call out. Just different. I stayed when he stopped asking how my day was. When conversations became one-sided. When silence filled the spaces that used to feel easy. I stayed when I saw Lindsay's name again. And again. And again. Each time, the same pattern. The same quick movement. The same dismissal. Like it didn't matter if I noticed. Because noticing didn't change anything. And that's when I realized something. He wasn't scared of losing me. Not even a little. So I stopped trying to prove him wrong. I stopped reacting. Stopped questioning. Stopped giving him anything to push against. And at first, it confused him. He'd say something dismissive, something sharp, something meant to shut me down. And I'd just agree. "You wouldn't last on your own." "Probably not." "You need me." "Maybe." He'd look at me like he was waiting for the argument that never came. But I wasn't doing that anymore. Because while he was getting comfortable, I was paying attention. Watching how careless he got. Watching how little effort he put into hiding things now. Watching how sure he was that I wasn't going anywhere. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something inside me went quiet. Not numb. Not broken. Just clear. I didn't need to confront him anymore. I didn't need proof. I already had the only thing that mattered. He didn't think I could leave. So I decided I wouldn't. Not yet. I didn't start rebuilding my life the day I decided to leave. I started the day I realized he didn't think I could. At first, it didn't look like anything. Just small shifts. Quiet ones. The kind no one notices unless they're looking for it. Grant definitely wasn't looking. He got comfortable fast. Once I stopped questioning him, the tension disappeared from his side completely. No more defensiveness. No more half answers. He moved through the house like everything was fine, like we had settled into some kind of understanding. Which, in a way, we had. He believed I had accepted things. I let him. "You've been quiet," he said one night, sitting across from me at the table, barely glancing up from his phone. "I'm just tired," I said. He nodded like that made sense. Like that explained everything. It was almost insulting how easy it was. The late nights didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. Sometimes he didn't even bother coming up with excuses anymore. "I've got something after work," he'd say, already halfway out the door. What kind of something? Just work stuff. Always work. Always vague. Always enough to shut the conversation down before it started. And I let it. Not because I believed him. Because I was done trying to make him tell the truth. Instead, I started paying attention to everything else. The timing. The patterns. The gaps. The way he'd shower the second he got home, like he needed to wash something off before I could notice. The way he'd keep his phone on him at all times now, even when he went to the kitchen or the bathroom. The way his tone changed when certain names came up, like he was adjusting without thinking about it. Lindsay. I saw the name enough times that it stopped feeling like a coincidence. I didn't look her up right away. I didn't need to. Not yet. What I needed was time. So I took it. I started with something simple. Work. I hadn't had a real job in years. Not since we decided it made more sense for me to stay home and handle things. At the time, it felt like a joint decision. Looking back, I don't remember ever really pushing for it. It just happened. So I reached out to Noah Bennett. We used to work together at a small marketing agency downtown. He had moved on to a bigger firm, something more stable, more demanding. We hadn't talked in a while, not since I drifted out of that world. I kept the message simple. "Hey, this is random, but are you still doing freelance overflow at your agency?" He responded faster than I expected. "Mara? Yeah. Why? I'm thinking about getting back into it." There was a pause. "Then you serious?" "Yeah. Call me." I didn't tell Grant. Not because I was hiding it in some dramatic way. Because it didn't matter to him. He never asked what I did during the day anymore. As long as the house ran smoothly and nothing interrupted his routine, I could have been doing anything. So I started small. One project. Then another. It felt strange at first. Like stepping back into a version of myself I had put on hold. The first time I sent an invoice, I stared at it longer than I needed to. Not because it was a lot of money. Because it was mine. No explanation. No justification. Just mine. I opened a separate account. I didn't make a big deal about it. Didn't hide it like some secret operation. I just did it. Quietly. Consistently. Money started coming in. Not fast. Not enough to change everything overnight. But enough. Enough to remind me I wasn't stuck. Enough to give me options. Around that time, I finally looked up Lindsay. It wasn't hard. Her profile was public. Smiling pictures. Events. Hotel backdrops. The kind of posts that made everything look easy and put together. Ridgeview Suites. That's where she worked. It clicked immediately. Grant had mentioned that hotel before. Client events. Vendor meetings. It was part of his territory. Part of his job. Of course it was. I scrolled just enough to confirm what I already knew. Then I stopped. I didn't need to torture myself with details. The fact that she existed was enough. The rest didn't change anything. If anything, it made things clearer. This wasn't some random mistake. Not a one-time thing. Not something that just happened. It had structure. Routine. Which meant it had been going on longer than he'd ever admit. I closed the app and put my phone down. No confrontation. No reaction. Just another piece of the picture. The next shift was harder. People. I hadn't realized how much of my life had shrunk around Grant until I tried to step outside of it again. I called Elena Brooks. We used to talk all the time. Before everything got busy. Before I started saying no to plans because it was easier than explaining why I couldn't go. She answered on the second ring. "Mara? Is everything okay?" I almost laughed at that. "Yeah," I said. "I just wanted to see how you're doing." There was a pause. Then a softer, "It's been a while." "I know. You okay?" I looked around the house. Everything in its place. Everything exactly the way it was supposed to be. "Yeah," I said again. I think I just needed to get out for a bit. We met the next day. Coffee shop downtown. Nothing dramatic. Just sitting across from someone who knew me before I became this version of myself. She didn't push. Didn't ask direct questions. Just talked. Let things feel normal again. At some point, she said, "You seem different." Different how? Quieter. But not in a bad way. I didn't answer that. Because I didn't fully understand it yet either. But I knew she wasn't wrong. I was quieter. Not because I had less to say. Because I was done saying things to someone who had already decided not to hear me. That night, Grant came home late again. No explanation. No apology. Just walked in like always, dropped his keys, went straight to the shower. I sat on the couch, listening to the water run, and realized something. I didn't feel anxious anymore. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel hurt. I just felt separate. Like his life and mine were already moving in different directions. Still under the same roof, but not connected anymore. And for the first time, that didn't scare me. It felt like relief. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about leaving. It was about timing. Because I could walk out right then. I had enough to survive for a while. Enough to figure things out as I went. But that wouldn't be enough. Not for me. Not after everything. He didn't just cheat. He built his entire confidence on the idea that I couldn't leave. That I wouldn't. So if I was going to walk away, it had to be on my terms. Not rushed. Not emotional. Not reactive. Final. And I wasn't there yet. But I was getting closer. The more I stopped reacting, the more Grant stopped pretending. It wasn't immediate. It happened in layers. Small changes stacking on top of each other until there was nothing subtle left. He stopped hiding his phone as carefully. Not because he trusted me. Because he didn't think it mattered anymore. Sometimes it would light up on the counter while he was in another room. Lindsay's name. No effort to conceal it. No urgency to clear it. Once, it buzzed 3 times in a row while he was in the shower. I looked at it. Didn't pick it up. Didn't unlock it. Just looked. Her name again. And something about that moment felt different. Not painful. Just confirming. Like the last piece of something I already knew. When he came back into the room, towel around his neck, he glanced at the phone, then at me. You could have just checked it, he said casually. I met his eyes. Why would I? He smirked. Most people would. I'm not most people. He held my gaze for a second, like he was trying to figure something out. Then he shrugged and picked up the phone. That was it. No tension. No guilt. Just indifference. And that's when it really settled in. He didn't think I'd ever leave. So nothing he did needed to be hidden anymore. That realization didn't break me. It clarified everything. Because now I knew exactly where I stood. And more importantly, where I didn't. I leaned into it after that. If he wanted to believe I was passive, I let him. If he wanted to believe I didn't notice, I made it easy for him. You're quiet lately, he said one night, standing in the doorway while I worked on my laptop. Just busy. With what? Work. He frowned slightly. What work? Freelance stuff. He nodded like it didn't matter. As long as it doesn't interfere with things here. Things here. That was how he saw my life. An extension of his. Something that existed to support his routine. It won't, I said. And I meant it. Because I wasn't planning to interfere with his life. I was planning to leave it. By then, the freelance work wasn't just small projects anymore. It had turned into something steady. Noah started looping me into more consistent contracts. Rachel became a regular client. Referrals came in slowly, then all at once. I built a routine around it. Mornings at the kitchen table. Afternoons at a cafe downtown. Evenings back home, quiet, focused. Grant barely noticed. Or maybe he did, and just didn't think it mattered. Either way, it worked in my favor. The account I opened started to grow. Not dramatically. Not enough to draw attention. Just enough to build something real. Something separate. One afternoon, I met Elena again. Same cafe. Same corner table. You look lighter, she said after a while. I feel clearer. That's good. I hesitated, then said, I think I'm leaving him. She didn't react right away. Just watched me carefully. Okay, she said finally. When? Not yet. Why not? Because I want it to be done. Not messy. Not emotional. Just done. She nodded slowly. So you're planning it? Yeah. And he has no idea? I shook my head. She leaned back, exhaling. That's a lot. I know. You're okay carrying that? I thought about it. About the nights I stayed quiet. The times I watched him walk in without explanation. The way he spoke to me like I was already decided. Yeah, I said. I am. Because it didn't feel like carrying something heavy anymore. It felt like building something. Piece by piece. Without him. The next shift happened a few weeks later. It was small, but it changed everything. Grant came home early. Not just early, unexpected. I was in the living room, laptop open, papers spread out across the table. Numbers, notes, invoices. My world, laid out in a way he had never seen before. He stopped in the doorway. What's all this? Work. He stepped closer, looking at the screen. Since when is it this much? It's been building. He nodded slowly, like he was trying to place something he hadn't been paying attention to. How much are you making? I closed the laptop. Enough. He gave a short laugh. That's not an answer. It's the one I'm giving. There was a pause. Not tense. Just unfamiliar. Like we had stepped into a version of this conversation we hadn't had before. Okay, he said finally. As long as you're not stressing yourself out. I'm not. He looked at me a second longer, then shrugged it off. That moment stayed with me. Not because of what he said. Because of what he didn't. No concern. No curiosity. No real interest. Just surface-level acknowledgement before moving on. And that told me everything. He didn't see me as someone who could change the dynamic. So I did. Quietly. Completely. I found the apartment a month later. Brookside Flats. Small. 1 bedroom. Nothing impressive. But it was mine. I signed the lease without telling anyone. Set up utilities. Bought a few essentials. Nothing that would draw attention if it showed up on a shared statement. Everything separate. Everything clean. I started moving things slowly. Not obvious things. Just pieces. Clothes I didn't wear often. Books. Personal items. If he noticed, he didn't say anything. And I didn't give him a reason to. By then, we were barely interacting beyond the surface. Conversations reduced to logistics. What's for dinner? I'm eating out. Okay. Simple. Distant. Easy. Like we were already living separate lives. One night, he came home later than usual. No message. No explanation. I was sitting on the couch, lights low, laptop closed. He walked in, glanced at me, then at the empty space beside me. You're not working? Not tonight. He nodded, dropping his jacket. Good. You should take breaks. I almost smiled at that. The irony. He disappeared into the bedroom, and I sat there for a second longer. Then I stood up, walked into the kitchen, and looked around. Everything in place. Everything familiar. Everything temporary. That was the moment it hit me. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just a simple, clear thought. I'm ready. Not almost. Not soon. Now. And for the first time, leaving didn't feel like a risk. It felt like a decision. One I had already made. I didn't wait for a perfect moment. I stopped needing one. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. No argument. No build-up. Just a normal evening, the kind we had been having for months. Quiet. Distant. Separate. Grant was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Same position, same expression, like every other night. I was in the bedroom, packing a bag. Not rushing. Not hesitating. Just moving with a kind of calm I didn't recognize in myself until that moment. Everything I needed was already gone. This was just the last of it. The obvious part. I walked back into the living room with the bag in my hand. He glanced up. What are you doing? I'm leaving. He stared at me for half a second. Then he laughed. Not surprised. Not worried. Just amused. Okay, he said. Where are you gonna go? Brookside Flats. The name didn't register for him right away. I watched it happen slowly. The confusion. The brief pause. For how long, he asked. And that was the moment I understood something I hadn't fully accepted before. He still didn't get it. Not even now. I'm not coming back, I said. The smile dropped slightly, but not enough. Not real concern. Just irritation. Stop, he said. You're being dramatic. I'm not. He leaned back, shaking his head like this was predictable, like he had already seen the ending. You'll be back in a week, he said. You always do this. That almost made me smile. Because he still thought this was temporary. A reaction. A phase. Something he could wait out. I didn't argue. Didn't try to explain. Didn't remind him of the years that led to this moment. I just nodded once, like I understood why he thought that. Then I picked up my keys. He didn't move. Didn't follow. Didn't stop me. And that was the final confirmation. He didn't believe I was capable of leaving. So I walked out. The hallway felt quieter than I expected. The air different. Like I had stepped into something I hadn't been allowed to feel in a long time. Space. I didn't look back. Not because I was trying to be strong. Because there was nothing left to look at. The first few days were strange. Not hard. Not overwhelming. Just unfamiliar. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom. Barely furnished. Boxes stacked in corners, half unpacked. But it was quiet in a way that didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. The first night, I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, eating takeout and staring at nothing. No tension. No waiting. No listening for the sound of keys at the door. Just silence. And for the first time in a long time, silence didn't feel like something was missing. It felt like something had been removed. Grant didn't call that night. Or the next. I think it took him a couple of days to realize this wasn't temporary. That I wasn't coming back. The first message came on the 3rd day. I didn't think you were serious. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say. Because I didn't feel the need to say anything at all. More messages followed. I thought we were fine. I didn't know you were unhappy. That one almost made me laugh. Because the truth was, he didn't know anything. Not because I didn't try. Because he never thought he needed to listen. Then the tone changed. I miss you. We can fix this. Just come home. Home. The word didn't feel the same anymore. It didn't feel like something I had left. It felt like something I had walked away from on purpose. I didn't respond. Not to the messages. Not to the calls. There was nothing left to explain. Weeks passed. Then months. 6 months now. My routine is different. Work fills my days. Real work. Consistent. Mine. I have my own space. My own schedule. My own decisions. No one dismissing them. No one reducing them to something smaller. Elena comes by sometimes. We sit on the couch, talk about normal things. Nothing heavy unless I bring it up. Most of the time I don't. Because I don't feel like I'm carrying anything anymore. Grant still reaches out occasionally. Less now. Short messages. I've been thinking about you. I didn't realize what I had. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. But it doesn't change anything. Because the part that stays with me isn't the cheating. It's not Lindsay. It's not the late nights or the lies. It's the certainty he had. The way he looked at me and already decided who I was. Someone who wouldn't leave. Someone who couldn't. And the only thing that finally broke that certainty was me actually doing it. Not arguing. Not threatening. Just leaving. Quietly. Completely. Sometimes I still think about that night. The way he laughed. The way he said I'd be back. And I wonder if part of me staying as long as I did made him right in some way. If I proved his point before I proved him wrong. I don't know. But I do know this. I didn't leave when he expected me to. I left when I was ready. And that's the part that matters. Because for the first time in years, the decision was mine.